How y'all doing today? I'm back with another video, and today we're talking about something culture actually needs but also suffers from at the same time: villains. Now, when people hear the word villain, they immediately think about the bad guy, someone destructive or someone trying to ruin something. But in culture, the idea of a villain is a little more complicated than that. Every story ever told has villains because villains create tension. They challenge the rules. They force the hero to evolve. And without that conflict, the story doesn't really move anywhere. Culture works in a very similar way. Some of the most important shifts in music, fashion, and art happen because someone showed up and completely went against what everyone else thought was normal. The person pushing those ideas usually looked crazy at first. People laughed at them, criticized them, said they were ruining the culture, so they didn't understand the rules. But over time, those same ideas ended up shaping the direction of everything. Culture doesn't really evolve through comfort, it evolves through disruption. And the people doing the disrupting often look like villains before the world realizes what they're actually doing. Those are the villains culture needs. They challenge expectations. They push the boundaries of what people think is acceptable. They force everyone else to reconsider what culture actually can be. Every era has people like this. The disruptors, the ones willing to risk being misunderstood just to create something different. Without those people, culture would honestly just repeat itself forever. Here's where the conversation gets interesting. Because not every villain is pushing culture forward. There's another type of villain that shows up in culture once things become successful. And that's what people call a culture vulture. A culture vulture isn't someone who appreciates a culture or someone who is influenced by it, because influence has always been a part of culture. Music influences fashion, fashion influences art. Cities influence each other, generations influence each other. That's normal, and it's how culture spreads. A culture vulture is someone who benefits from a culture they didn't help build. They usually show up after the culture has already gained attention, after the aesthetic has already been proven, after the movement has already been built by the people inside that community. They adopt the style, they use the language, they take the imagery and the identity of the culture. But instead of supporting the creators who built that culture, they use it as a shortcut to influence, visibility, or profit. It's like showing up to a house after it's already been built and claiming the view without ever helping lay the foundation. And the reason this happens so often is because culture becomes valuable. When a movement is small and underground is risky, nobody wants to attach themselves to something strange or unproven. But once the aesthetic becomes popular, the risk disappears, and suddenly everybody wants a piece of it. Brands start copying the look, influencers start adopting the language, artists start mimicking the energy of the scene, not because they helped build it, but because they see the opportunity that comes with it. That's why the conversation about culture vultures usually appears once something becomes mainstream. It's the moment where people start asking who actually built the culture and who simply arrived once it was profitable. And this is where culture ends up with two different types of villains. The first type is a disruptor, the person who challenges the culture and forces it to evolve, even when people hate them for it at first. Those villains are necessary because they push the culture forward and expand what people think is possible. The second type is the parasite, the culture vulture. The one who consumes the culture once it becomes valuable without contributing to the foundation that made it possible. One type of villain creates new ideas while the other simply feeds off the success of those ideas. And the difficult part is that sometimes people confuse the two. A disruptor might get called a villain early on because people don't understand what they're doing yet. But a culture vulture often hides behind popularity and success. The disruptor risks everything to build something new, while the culture vulture usually arrives after the risk is already done. So maybe the conversation about villains and culture isn't about eliminating villains altogether. Maybe culture actually needs villains, just not the wrong kind. Culture needs the people willing to challenge the rules, question the traditions, and push things into uncomfortable territory, because that's how movements grow and evolve. But culture also has to recognize when someone is simply feeding off the work that others already created. Because every cultural movement starts with builders: the artists, the designers, the creators, who spend years shaping something before the world even notices it. And once the spotlight finally arrives, that's usually when the other characters start appearing too. The people who want the identity of the culture without the responsibility of building it. So the real question isn't just whether culture vultures exist. The real question is where you personally draw the line. When does influence become exploitation? When does admiration turn into appropriation? And who actually deserves credit for building culture in the first place? Because culture will always have heroes, and culture will probably always have villains too. The real challenge is learning how to tell the difference between the ones who push culture forward and the ones who simply feed off it.